Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
They know the minutia of game time decisions, when to call timeouts, when the kick, go for 2, and all that other stuff better than the head coaches, because the head coaches aren't watching 30, 35 games like sports fans are between college football and the NFL. All the head coaches are doing are watching game films. They may be watching 30 game films, but they're not watching game management. So the fan does know.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Mike Trout, will he ask for a trade? And maybe I'm a bit of a Neanderthal for asking this, and people are going to say, listen, he's never leaving. I refuse to accept that we're just not going to get Mike Trout postseason baseball ever again. Because clearly when healthy, he can still do it. But he's also rarely healthy and still kind of expensive. It's complicated.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Course setup, Bethpage, and how soft the greens were, how long it played. It definitely was an advantage for Europe from my mind, and they putted better.
Well, but do you think in a weird way that same setup is what allows the Americans to get back in it today? Because you do see a lot of those big putts made.
Yeah.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Top of the hour power right here on the early line. It's how we do it on a Monday morning on the SportsGrid Network, setting the table for your SportsGrid day, but more importantly, looking back at what happened yesterday. And I love to play armchair quarterback. And sometimes that armchair is broken because a lot of these games, Joe Ranieri, absolutely left me speechless the way those finals happened. Sheesh.
Yeah, it was a ugly day for a lot of bettors yesterday, especially those in survivor opportunities, Donnie, that loved the Rams on Thursday night. No. Loved the Cardinals yesterday. No. The list goes on. It was a bloodbath this past weekend for a lot of the public.
It really was, and it just goes to show you, like, sometimes, remember this too, because as many people have took those games yesterday and got those bad beats, they do eventually come back around, you steal them, but those lost sear so deep into your mind that it feels like you never get those back and you always get those bad beats. Now, again, I didn't even take a bad beat yesterday, and I feel like, Joe, I got bad beated on a couple of these games because I know people betting their hard-earned money on games that should be easy, only for running backs to bust 80-yard touchdown runs and drop the football in the goal line. Sometimes it just doesn't make sense. Better to be lucky than good at times is the way we have it. Here's the early lineup, Joe, and the early lineup finished late last night. New England Patriots, 23-20 victory over the Buffalo Bills. An important victory for the Patriots, sort of claiming, we're back since Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. We're back. We can beat the Buffalo Bills. The Bills were the last undefeated team in the NFL left, sitting at 4-0 after the Philadelphia Eagles got robbed against the Broncos. We don't have to get into that game. But the Buffalo Bills take the loss yesterday. Congratulations, Patriots, man. You did it.
Yeah, they did. And listen, they're on the right track, but I think we all knew that with Vrabel. It starts with the head coach, and it goes from there. And they spent a lot of resources and a lot of time in the offseason focusing on that defensive side of the ball. That is where they thought they needed to address first. And I think what you saw last night, a team that doesn't often beat themselves, especially at home, the Buffalo Bills, that defense made them very uncomfortable. 3 turnovers was the difference in that game, and it started with the Patriots defense.
You knew you had to run the football in Baltimore yesterday to give yourself a chance to win against the Texans. The Texans came in, red hot. They finally beat the Titans, one of the worst football teams you're ever going to see. But could they say, Let's go on the road against a banged-up Ravens team that needs a win as well and come away with a victory. Maybe we'll win by 3 points and get out of there. They won by 34 points yesterday, even if Derrick Henry's 15 carries for 33 yards got that touchdown, so he moves up there in the standings, 5th all-time, tied with Walter Payton, 110 rushing touchdowns. I'm pretty sure he's not looking to paint that football like, man, what a great performance it was yesterday. I got that touchdown. They got hammered yesterday, and they sit at 1-4. Sky seems like it's falling in Baltimore.
Well, it is, but, there's only so many injuries you can overcome. Now, that doesn't excuse the lack of effort, maybe, but it was over early in that game. You put a backup quarterback in Cooper Rush behind the 8-ball because now you can't afford to run the ball, Donnie. You're too far behind. So if you're going to get back in this thing, you got to be looking for big plays. You got to push the ball downfield, and all of it was a recipe for an absolute disaster, which is exactly what it turned out to be.
Jordan Addison, benched in the first quarter, comes back late to score a big-time touchdown in a victory for the Minnesota Vikings as they improved to 3-2. By the way, I liked what I saw to Dylan Gabriel. 19 of 33, $190, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, a passer rating of 94. And if you didn't know, Quinshon Judkins looks like he's going to be a flat-out superstar. 23 carries for 110, Joe, and he had a long touchdown run that was called back on top of that. Even though the Browns didn't get the victory yesterday, they dropped to 1-4. At least now you can say, you know what, Dylan, give us a couple more starts to see what we have. But a quality win for the Vikings overseas, their second straight game overseas.
Yeah, and listen, I mean, it was a step in the right direction. I mean, Gabriel certainly wasn't a statue there. I thought he did a pretty good job. The defense of the Browns, they are just going to be hung out to dry a lot, unfortunately, Donnie. I mean, they certainly played good enough to win, but once again, the offense fell a little bit short for the Browns.
And how about this news coming in from Mark Sanchez, who played on multiple football teams here. Remember him being the young quarterback for Rex Ryan's Jets here, trying to win them a Super Bowl. Now, granted, they didn't make it to the Super Bowl, but had some success nonetheless. Retired football player, doing games and broadcasting. Seems like a pretty cush life. What the heck was he doing out in Indianapolis the other day? Allegedly, as we like to say. And you see the police report coming up there. Uber driver, get out of my way. I'm going to punch you in the head. Pepper spray didn't work, stabbed them, go to the hospital, get surgery, wake up, and you're the one arrested here. Come on, Mark Sanchez.
I mean, you're not 22 years old, dude. You're 38 years old. I mean, these are the kinds of mistakes that you should not be making at 38 years old, Mark Sanchez. So I'm going to be very interested with the PR blitz from his side, Donnie, where, T-minus how long before he now enters rehab or something, there's going to be a flurry of information from the Sanchez side here to try to get himself out of this.
Yeah, also, when you take a look at the whole situation, too, did he have, a rental car in the Uber? Hey, buddy, I just got to run this right up to the door and drop it off. Get back in your car. I wonder how it all played out, which you end up getting stabbed. Just mind your own business sometimes, people. It works out much, much better. How about Keenan Allen here? Fastest to reach 1,000 receptions in his career. But they got blasted by the Commanders, 27-10. Welcome back, Jaden Daniels. And that offensive line, good luck playing quarterback Justin Herbert. Ouch.
Yeah, when the backups to the backup are getting hurt on the offensive line for the Chargers, and Amari Hampton wasn't available to them in the second half of this game as well. The injuries are mounting for the Chargers. And isn't it funny, Donnie, how just a few weeks ago we had crowned the Chargers the kings of the AFC West? Doesn't look like that anymore, does it?
No, it certainly does. And how about this? The Tennessee Titans 22-21 victory over the Arizona Cardinals. You take a look at Kyler Murray banged up in that loss, but have no fear, Kyler Murray. Battlefield 6 due out soon. So forget about these losses you're taking on the football field. Just sit back and relax and enjoy an unbelievable comeback. A comeback for the ages, it felt like, for the Tennessee Titans.
How is anybody surprised with this? This has been the MO of this team and Kyler Murray since he was drafted by it. Doesn't matter who the coach is. Doesn't make a difference here, Donnie. There is a theme here, a consistent theme with Kyler Murray and this Arizona organization, and you saw it firsthand again yesterday against Tennessee.
Just absolutely brutal performance. Like, it wasn't, sometimes you could say, like, well, hey, man, Peyton Manning came back on him in the fourth quarter and beat him. That Tennessee Titans team is one of the worst offenses you will find. They ended up scoring 16 points in the fourth quarter to win it outright, 22-21. Absolutely unacceptable. You know what else is unacceptable? The New York Yankees performance yesterday taking on the Toronto Blue Jays. I don't know if your game plan was get smashed in game 1 and game 2 and then win 3 straight games before you finally make it in there to the ALCS. The Yankees get it together. Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is not surprising, right? You don't lose anything extra because you gave up, 13 runs and you lost. So it's the bottom line for me is the Blue Jays had the best record in the American League at home. Why? Well, because they hit much better at home. They are a different team on the road, and they were a different team at Yankee Stadium than they were at the Rogers Center. So all it takes is one game, and they'll be, they're right back in it. I still don't trust the bullpen or this team on the road, Donnie. I got to see it before I'll believe it with Toronto.
I got to tell you, like, you're down 12-0 after the 5th inning in a playoff game on the road. It wasn't if, Joe. It's like, well, what did you want us to do? We had to throw our center fielder as a pitcher because nobody was left. Like, Max Fried was on the mound to start that game. 20 total runs scored. The Yankees scored 2 in the 6th, 5 in the 7th. You're like, oh, that should be good enough for an easy victory. They got beat 13-7, like a high school football score at this point. What are the chances, Joe, that we get another game in Toronto in that series? What do you think?
Very much so, because, again, Toronto is not the same team on the road that they are at home. Would not shock me here at all. And when's the last time Bieber pitched? Got to be, 2 weeks?
Man, but I hope Justin Bieber shows up there in New York Yankees and knock him around. Let's get back to more information, which includes Monday Night Football tonight, people.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circa Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
They know the minutia of game time decisions, when to call timeouts, when the kick, go for 2, and all that other stuff better than the head coaches, because the head coaches aren't watching 30, 35 games like sports fans are between college football and the NFL. All the head coaches are doing are watching game films. They may be watching 30 game films, but they're not watching game management. So the fan does know.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Mike Trout, will he ask for a trade? And maybe I'm a bit of a Neanderthal for asking this, and people are going to say, listen, he's never leaving. I refuse to accept that, and we're just not going to get Mike Trout postseason baseball ever again. Because clearly when healthy, he can still do it. But he's also rarely healthy and still kind of expensive. It's complicated.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Course setup, Bethpage, and how soft the greens were, how long it played. It definitely was an advantage for Europe from my mind, and they putted better.
Well, but do you think in a weird way that same setup is what allows the Americans to get back in it today? Because you do see a lot of those big putts made.
Yeah.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Did you have fun yesterday on Sunday NFL football? Did you make money? Did you hit your prop bets? Did you hit your side bets and totals here? Well, we got one more game of action. It's a pretty good one tonight. A battle in the AFC. The 2-2 Kansas City Chiefs, who opened up the season, Joe Ranieri, 0-2, now sit at 2-2, looking to get over the hump and over 500 for the first time this year. The Jacksonville Jaguars come in 3-1. They're the home team tonight, but they are getting 3.5 points with a total listed at 45.5. It feels like for Liam Cohen in this organization, like you're 3-1 now. You want to say, you know what? We're here. We've arrived. Beat the Kansas City Chiefs as an underdog tonight. Yeah, Duval, baby. This is what Liam Cohen and the boys imagined when they came to town. So if we look at the side itself and the total, what are we feeling about tonight's game down in Duval?
Duval. Well, it's interesting, right? Because this opened up 2.5, 3, and now we have seen locked in at 3.5 all week long. And I'm not sure it comes back to 3. I'm not buying that there's a lot of Jacksonville money sitting on the sidelines here. We know the public saw what we got last week offensively against, from the Chiefs there against the Ravens, but then we just watched what Houston did to the Ravens there. So I don't know how much stock we put into it. The Xavier Worthy ankle being, blowing up there now shows up on the ILs. Very strange situation. I don't know if it's a head fake or what's going on. But I think both of these teams have no desire to try to make this thing any sort of track meet here. I think the value is on the under. I think I would not shock me at all if this is more of a 20-17, 21-17 type of game here. 45.5 is where it was as high as 46.5. We're starting to get a little bit of buyback. If Worthy is ruled out, Donnie, this thing is going to drop. So I would bet the total under earlier rather than wait.
Yeah, because we're taking a look at Worthy. Like, it doesn't actually matter, Joe, like how many catches he has in a game. You have to account for him when he's out there. And if he's not there, your explosiveness goes down. Then you rely on Hollywood, Brown again at this point. It's like, okay, Juju Smith-Schuster being ancient out here. Travis Kelce, obviously not the same player was just a few short years ago, and that's going to play into it. But if we do look at the quarterback battle tonight, Trevor Lawrence's passing prop, not that high, 214.5. Patrick Mahomes, 245.5. The touchdown props, as always, 1.5 touchdown passes listed, just with different juice. Trevor Lawrence to throw to, you get a plus 130 price. Patrick Mahomes to throw to, it's a minus 138 price. Who are we trusting tonight? Because it's hard to say. Of course, you always trust Mahomes. But do we think Mahomes can throw for, let's just say, 250 yards tonight, Joe?
He may have to be completely honest with you. I mean, listen, this defense has been pretty decent here of Jacksonville. It's kind of what has led the resurgence and the charge here. That and a running game for Jacksonville, right? That has kind of been why we've gotten this success. But this is a very good defense that's relatively healthy here. And the problem is if Worthy can't stretch the field, well, then, we might have to take some shots with other guys here. Both teams got to establish running games here. So I would look to bet unders on the passing props tonight, especially with Mahomes, because I think it's going to be, you got to be able to run the ball on the road in the NFL on a Monday night. You got to control the clock. And I think that's what Kansas City is going to look to do.
Last 4 games for Travis Hunter. First-round draft pick. They traded up to get him, Joe, versus San Francisco. 3 catches, 42 yards. Houston, 1 catch, 21 yards. Cincinnati, 3 catches, 22 yards. Game number 1, 6 catches, 33 yards. For an explosive player, hasn't really had that breakout game tonight. Now, again, they're not betting you. The numbers are what they are. But Travis Hunter's listed, Joe, at 28.5 as his receiving prop. You know as well as I do. When you have a rookie, when you have a good football player, like the reason why I liked A.J. Brown to get 5 catches yesterday, because you knew they were going to force feed him the football, got 4 catches in the first half, 1 in the second. He got the 5. But Travis Hunter, do we have to get him into the game plan? Like 28.5 as his receiving prop. It almost feels like to me, like, forget the handicap. Like Travis Hunter plays and gets 21 yards receiving tonight. What are we actually doing? And should we just make him into a full-time corner at this point?
Well, and that's going to be the interesting question, right? What do they do here moving forward? Because it feels like they're still kind of experimenting, trying to get, receiving is the first goal here. And then, we'll mix them in with some of the packages in the secondary. I think it's going to be a work in progress until they can figure it out. But this thing is for sure. He didn't just get drafted number one and has become now the favorite target of Trevor Lawrence, and that he's a guy you have to bet. He's been a guy you have to fade in the prop betting market to this particular point. So I'd be weary against Spags' defense, which is going to play two safeties high. They're not going to let you go over the top of them. So how does he actually help you win this game?
Yeah, we'll see how that one plays out. Touchdown prop markets here. We all love those. Travis Etienne is the favorite right now in the clubhouse. Plus money here at plus 125. Take a look at Xavier Worthy, plus 155. Travis Kelce, plus 170. Brian Thomas Jr., plus 175. And Kareem Hunt at a plus 220 price. Refreshing, Joe, to see all the leading top touchdown scores on the odds market, all plus money like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's good because you really don't know here, right? I mean, Etienne should be the guy, the workhorse here for them. He has been all year. They've been exceptional at running the ball. At plus money, I'd have no problem backing him in this spot. But don't be shocked if good old Travis Kelce finds his way into the end zone here tonight, just behind those linebackers of the Jacksonville Jags. So, and maybe even a little further down the board. Juju Smith-Schuster got in the end zone. Maybe no Worthy. You have to look at those guys.
By the way, we always talk about like Patrick Mahomes as a big game runner. Like it's not the AFC Championship game or the Super Bowl, but Patrick Mahomes rushing prop tonight, Joe, listed at 21.5. Trevor Lawrence at 10.5. The leader obviously is Travis Etienne at 64.5. But I always get intrigued by this. Like Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt probably going to split carries. You don't need a lot of yards, Joe. 28.5 for Pacheco and Kareem Hunt, 27.5, almost side by side.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting. The game plan to me is going to be the most interesting here. But maybe even Patrick Mahomes' total attempts here could be good. He might have to run more often than not. I think it's at 4.5. So I could see him having to rush and run the ball a little bit more than usual.
Is it a big game tonight for Bay Schultz-Tootin listed at 20.5? Maybe the running games do dominate tonight. Maybe it stays under that 45.5. We'll watch it and let it play out. But in the meantime, let's talk about what happened with college football. Penn State lost. Whoa!
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all three Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
They know the minutia of game time decisions, when to call timeouts, when the kick, go for two, and all that other stuff better than the head coaches, because the head coaches aren't watching 30, 35 games like sports fans are between college football and the NFL. All the head coaches are doing are watching game films. They may be watching 30 game films, but they're not watching game management. So the fan does know.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Mike Trout, will he ask for a trade? And maybe I'm a bit of a Neanderthal for asking this, and people are going to say, listen, he's never leaving. I refuse to accept that we're just not going to get Mike Trout postseason baseball ever again. Because clearly when healthy, he can still do it. But he's also rarely healthy and still kind of expensive. It's complicated.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Course setup, Bethpage, and how soft the greens were, how long it played. It definitely was an advantage for Europe from my mind, and they putted better.
Well, but do you think in a weird way that same setup is what allows the Americans to get back in it today? Because you do see a lot of those big putts made.
Yeah.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Right back at it, people. College football entertainment on Saturday. Yeah, you got a lot of that action. You also got losses by teams that weren't expected to lose. But the state champions, Joe Ranieri, is where we're going to start. That's in the state of Florida. The Miami Hurricanes taking on the Florida State Seminoles. Ran out to a big lead. Held on to knock off Florida State 28-22. The Canes seem like they're back here, Joe. They're back.
Yeah, that was eye-opening. And quite honestly, Donnie, it should have been actually more. Miami did take their foot off the gas a little bit there in the second half as they had just dominated early in that game there. But turnovers continue to be a problem. They were a problem against Virginia for Florida State, and they were a problem against Miami. But if you had any questions about how good is that Miami defense, is that a national championship quality defense? The answer is absolutely correct. And I think Miami, with that win there, based upon the schedule moving forward, pretty much, I think, punched their ticket to the postseason there with that win against Florida State.
AP top 25 here, Joe. Take a look. Ohio State #1. Those Miami Hurricanes jump back into the #2 spot, followed by Oregon, Ole Miss, and Texas A&M. The Hurricanes look like they're here to stay. And understand this, too. Sometimes you look at the final scores like, Florida State fought back. All it was Thomas Castellanos playing street ball against a prevent defense, which did allow them to score 19 fourth-quarter points. But Miami clearly was the better football team all the way through. The deep ball's working, the running game's working, the defense and the pass rush, all there for the Canes. Something we haven't seen in the past. So it looks like they are playoff bound, but we've seen this before. You can't get tripped up, and the Canes somehow find themselves getting tripped up the past couple years with legitimate chances to win the ACC. We'll see if that plays out. How about this next score here, which really was confusing to me? Penn State, I thought this was the ultimate smash job, Joe. Like, you got beat by Oregon. You're going to play a horrible football team in UCLA until you got the Nico Iamaleava, and he goes, you know what? I'm a reincarnate of Michael Vick. Iamaleava, 16 carries, 128 yards, and 3 touchdowns. They beat Penn State. Unbelievable loss.
Donnie, it was unbelievable, but at the same time, it's not surprising from this standpoint. We told you on the spread lines last week that Penn State and Franklin in this spot over the years does not cover these kinds of numbers after a disappointing loss. And P.S., not only did he not cover the 24.5 points here, but they lost outright. And we see this time and time again, Donnie, where here's how I looked at it. Penn State just lost the Oregon game twice. That game absolutely destroyed them above the shoulders, and they took that to UCLA, still with the Oregon loss hangover in overtime, and lost it again. Because right from the get-go, Donnie, watching that game, we covered it on In-Game Live. Clearly, UCLA was the better team. Hard to say, right? Given how much millions of dollars Penn State paid to bring all those guys back from last year's semifinal team. UCLA was the better team from the opening kickoff till the final play of that game.
And how about this? You don't talk about historical stances here. Top 10 teams upset by opponent 0-4 or worse. 2025, obviously Penn State just did that. The last time was 1985. Before that, 1958. Before that, 1953. And before that, 1941. Absolutely historic losses. And hey, man, the travel's just really hard, Joe, to go from Pennsylvania out to L.A. and expect a victory here at that stop. Stop the madness here. That was one of the most embarrassing losses you're going to find, and that effectively should end Penn State's season here or any chance to get into a football playoff because they still have Ohio State, which they'll lose to. That'll give them that automatic third loss at that point here. Brutal. How about Florida knocking off Texas? And for me, Joe, sometimes I like to take almost like a lap around and do a victory lap. And the reason is I questioned all the past 2 years, which included a lot this offseason. There's no plan I've ever heard of in my entire life where a generational high school quarterback comes out, but the plan was to not have him start for the first 2 years of his college experience, even though you think he's the best quarterback in the country. And always the plan was to start him in, let's just say, year number 3. Arch Manning is not a good quarterback. Arch Manning, no reason he couldn't beat out Quinn Ewers. You know what that reason was? He wasn't even as good as Quinn Ewers, a 7th-round draft pick in the NFL. Joe, Texas, get out of my life. Stink.
Well, and let's face it, they were the number one preseason team to win it all, and they just lost to a Gator offense that was ranked 120th in the country, Donnie, heading into that game. Unbelievable.
Lagway looked like the five-star quarterback ready to rock and roll there in Gainesville. Tough little loss there for Texas. We're going to talk more college football then, flip it over to Major League Baseball next.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all three Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
They know the minutia of game time decisions, when to call timeouts, when the kick, go for two, and all that other stuff better than the head coaches, because the head coaches aren't watching 30, 35 games like sports fans are between college football and the NFL. All the head coaches are doing are watching game films. They may be watching 30 game films, but they're not watching game management. So the fan does know.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Mike Trout, will he ask for a trade? And maybe I'm a bit of a Neanderthal for asking this, and people are going to say, listen, he's never leaving. I refuse to accept that we're just not going to get Mike Trout postseason baseball ever again. Because clearly when healthy, he can still do it. But he's also rarely healthy and still kind of expensive. It's complicated.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Course setup, Bethpage, and how soft the greens were, how long it played. It definitely was an advantage for Europe, from my mind, and they putted better.
Well, but do you think, in a weird way, that same setup is what allows the Americans to get back in it today? Because you do see a lot of those big putts made.
Yeah.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
The Crimson Tide was in effect on Saturday. Number 10, Alabama, taking on number 16, Vanderbilt at that point, 30-14 final. Ty Simpson, 23 of 31, 340 yards passing, 2 touchdowns and an interception. But Jam Miller, you expected high expectations, I should say, coming out of, preseason camp, was injured to start the season. He's back now, Joe. 22 carries, 136, and a touchdown in that game. However, Vanderbilt, if you were to tell me coming into the game they'd average 7.6 yards per carry, you probably think they'd come away with a victory. They didn't even get the cover due to some late action for Alabama, punching in a touchdown. The Alabama Crimson Tide winning a game here that they needed to win. Back are the Tide, Joe.
Yeah, well, this wasn't nearly as close either. I mean, they pretty much controlled the line of scrimmage from the get-go here. And this kid, Ty Simpson, can I tell you, 23 of 31, 340, 2 touchdowns, just 1 pick. You got that healthy Jam Miller running the ball 136 yards and a touchdown. He is a better passer than Alabama has had in a very long time. This kid is a great quarterback for Kalen DeBoer and what he wants to do, both running the ball now, having some balance offensively. Yeah, this kid can do it all. I'm pretty impressed with what we've seen from Ty Simpson so far.
Best backfield in the country, Joe. It doesn't reside in Penn State. It just doesn't. It's in Notre Dame. Jeremiah Love, 16 for 103. Jadarian Price, 8 for 83. Another victory for the Fighting Irish as they knock off Boise State 28-7 in a slow starting game here, which Notre Dame pulled away late in that game. C.J. Carr, 15 of 23, 189, and 2 touchdowns, no interceptions here. Look at those Notre Dame Fighting Irish, Joe, to make the playoffs down to -104. They're making it. I'm telling you right now, Notre Dame is making the college football playoff.
I mean, listen, Donnie, outside of that first game against Miami, right, they were very much capable of still at this point having one loss on the season here. They are figuring it out as they go along. But again, that offense, very impressive. But more importantly, the defense seems to be getting better. That's a very experienced and pretty good offense there for Boise State. And for them to limit them to just 7 points, that was impressive stuff. We know they're going to run the table. They're never going to be left out of the conversation for the postseason. They just can't. They have no more room for error, Donnie, and they didn't have any errors really against Boise State.
Yep. Now we transition over to Major League Baseball. What happened over the weekend? Little armchair quarterback for baseball. Saturday afternoon action. The Brewers 9-3 over the Cubbies. They busted out the bats early in that game, rode that wave, finished off the Cubs. Game 2 will be tonight. But the Brewers, and by the way, Churio down with another injury on that hamstring, got a couple hits early in that game. That could be a tough one to watch, but 13 hits, 9 runs for the Brew Crew, easily beating the Cubs.
It was over early.
Yeah.
I mean, real early. 6 in the first, 3 in the second, and that was all she wrote from there. So, listen, their backs are going to be against the wall here, the Cubs coming out here tonight, but we did see a lot of underdogs cashing some tickets early on here in the first couple of games of this series. So we'll see if that trend continues. But bounce back wins was the theme. And boy, Philadelphia is going to have an opportunity to do exactly what Seattle did last night tonight and bounce back. We'll see if the Cubs can do it as well.
By the way, we can double these games up because it felt like the same game played out twice. Game number 1 in the ALDS, the Blue Jays 10-1 over the Yankees. Game number 2, 13-7. The bats are absolutely on fire for the Blue Jays at home in games 1 and games 2, Joe. But I've asked you this question multiple times today already. Can those bats stay hot in the Bronx moving forward?
Well, I think the best thing that happened to them yesterday was that, that game could have been 13-1, Donnie, but it wasn't because they did finally start swinging the bats, and they are more than capable of scoring runs. The problem is the Blue Jays have not been the team you just watched on the road all year long. And Fried shut them down at Yankee Stadium. He struggled against them at Yankee Stadium. He struggled against them at Rogers Center like most starting pitchers have. Well, now guess what? Rodon and Schlittler are going to get them in their own ballpark where they are half the hitting team they have been all year long at home. So that's the thing that always worried me about the Blue Jays, Donnie. You can't be that crazy of a difference between at home and on the road in Major League Baseball, but that's what the Blue Jays have been.
Is Booney coaching for his life there? Aaron Boone, manager of the New York Yankees, Joe. If they lose in 3, he's probably done. But let's just say it goes 5 and they go back to Toronto. Is he safe for another year? Because the expectations always in New York are win a championship or bust. And when the fan base is just saying, just give us somebody on a silver platter, we've been asking for Boone, deliver that, and we'll buy our tickets. Does he have to advance in this series, Joe?
Well, I don't know if he has. I mean, it's not like they're at this point because he made some sort of ridiculous. He did this because the Yankees, the starting pitching guys that had done it all year, got exposed in this series at home so far. I mean, when you're that far behind the 8 ball, it's kind of hard to say, oh, it's Boone's fault. Now, if he does something stupid over in game 3 at home or game 4, the lineup or whatever it may be, we'll have the conversation. But nothing Boone has done to me at this point has led me to believe that, oh, this is all Boone's fault. It's not to this point.
Tough scene all the way around, but no tougher scene than in the city of brotherly love on back-to-back games at home. The Phillies on Saturday night, a 3-0 lead here. Below that, and got to credit the Dodgers. Clutch base knocks with 2 outs, Joe. Double for Kike Hernandez, and that 3-run home run by Teoscar Hernandez does the Phillies in 5-3. Man, oh man. Like, if you're going to get, Kotani was really good on the mound outside of the 3 runs he gave up, but he struck out 4 times. You have to win that game for the Phillies. It's 3-0. You're at home. You can't lose that, and they did. That's a devastating loss for the Phillies on Saturday night, which I was watching going you've got to be kidding me, man.
Yeah, that was, unfortunately, they had a big second inning, Donnie, right? And then that was it. Then they just kind of sat there and was like, all right, well, let's see if we can hold them down. And you weren't holding the Dodgers lineup down for very long. And they just gave them opportunities to get back into the game. Great start there, Donnie, with that early three spot they put up, but that was it. They just could not put anything together. Give credit to Ohtani and the bullpen of the Dodgers for holding it down, but it's not going to get any easier with the guys that the Dodgers can throw out there in a short series right now. It just doesn't get any easier.
No, it certainly doesn't. Just a devastating loss for them all the way around. Harrison Bader probably down, too, with a groin injury at this point. So add insult to injury, you're getting that. But how about the series out west, Joe? 2 one-run games. Game number 1, the Tigers went to extras and won 3-2. It's just so awkward not seeing that runner on second base here. But, hey, look at that. They scored in the 11th inning on a single up the middle. Then the replay of Skubal's on the mound doesn't matter. The Mariners pull out a 1-run victory. That's going to be a fun series, now tied at 1-1. Good stuff.
Yeah, and again, if you can't win Skubal starts, what are we doing here, Detroit?
Yeah.
I mean, you got a gift in game 1. The fact that you were able to win that in extra innings, I mean, kudos here. But you really had the opportunity with Skubal on the mound to get it done, and they couldn't. And Seattle, to their credit, I believe that's the 3rd time that they have actually had success against Skubal in beating him this season. So, not good. They may have to face him again, though, in a possible game 5. We'll see.
Yeah, we're going to talk Major League Baseball next and preview a couple of games that are going to take place tonight. But I just want to bring this up. Ari Mirov sent out a tweet that in the University of North Carolina, they got embarrassed by Clemson on Saturday. Bill Belichick has instructed their social media team, even with the big win for Drake May, who's a University of North Carolina alum, it has to do with the Patriots. He doesn't want anything posted there about the Patriots, which includes Drake May, who's a positive bright spot for Carolina. How about that pettiness of the worst, quote-unquote, franchise now run by Mike Lombardi and the boys down there at UNC?
Not good here at all. Optically, I mean, it'd be one thing if you were winning games and you wanted it to be all about your team. But at this point, Donnie, wouldn't he want any sort of distraction? That didn't focus on this team.
They are brutal, and it's so much fun to watch. Major League Baseball on deck, baby. Come on back with us right here on a Monday edition of The Early Line.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circa Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
They know the minutia of game time decisions, when to call timeouts, when the kick, go for 2, and all that other stuff better than the head coaches, because the head coaches aren't watching 30, 35 games like sports fans are between college football and the NFL. All the head coaches are doing are watching game films. They may be watching 30 game films, but they're not watching game management. So the fan does know.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Mike Trout, will he ask for a trade? And maybe I'm a bit of a Neanderthal for asking this, and people are going to say, listen, he's never leaving. I refuse to accept that we're just not going to get Mike Trout postseason baseball ever again. Because clearly when healthy, he can still do it. But he's also rarely healthy and still kind of expensive. It's complicated.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Course setup, Bethpage, and how soft the greens were, how long it played. It definitely was an advantage for Europe, from my mind, and they putted better.
Well, but do you think, in a weird way, that same setup is what allows the Americans to get back in it today? Because you do see a lot of those big putts made.
Yeah.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
You people out there know me. I'm a Philadelphia fan. You know me. I love my Philadelphia Eagles. I love my Philadelphia Phillies. And have a 3-0 lead on Saturday turn into a 17-3 lead on Sunday and have both of my teams lose those games. One of the worst weekends I've ever watched in the history of my Philadelphia sports fandom here. An absolute letdown. And only making money on the football field can only make up for so much because fandom lives forever. And the Philadelphia Phillies have a chance tonight to get back in this series, Joe, from Philadelphia, 6:08 p.m. Blake Snell going up against Jesus Luzardo. Lefty versus lefty. 7.5 is a total. Favorite now. No longer the Philadelphia Phillies like you saw them with Christopher Sanchez on the mound. The favorite is towards the Dodgers at a -132 price. Seems like it's do or die for the Phillies, or they're just going to go out and take a vacation in California and probably get popped in game number 3. Must-win situation for the Phillies. The question is, can they get it done in your mind, Joe?
Well, they're going to have to, right? The problem is it doesn't get any easier. Yes, now you got to deal with Snell, and of course you'll have Glass now to deal with, and then Yamamoto and Sazagi, and the list goes on and on and on and on. So the big question is, and my fear with the Phillies, Donnie, was they are going to miss Wheeler. This is where the Wheeler injury will start to rear its ugly head, because do we really want the season in a balance hanging on Luzardo here? Because listen, when he's good, Donnie, he's been great, right? But which version of him shows up here tonight? Some of his metrics seem to be better on the road than they have been at home. He's given up 4 runs in 2 of his last 3 starts. This total is sitting at 7.5. It wouldn't shock me if the total starts to creep up here. You know, the Dodgers are built for the postseason, and if you don't get Harper hitting, then it is over, Donnie, for the Phillies here. So I think it's super important for Philadelphia to do again what they did, play from in front, but they've got to be able to get multiple innings with runners on and get the ball rolling here. Otherwise, the longer you let the Dodgers hang around against a guy like Luzardo or anybody else, the uglier it could get.
Yeah, it certainly can. And by the way, it's since August the 1st, these two pitchers, Blake Snell and Jesus Luzardo, are absolutely loved in the analytical markets, Joe. 2.39 xFIP for Snell, Luzardo 2.88 here. Hint, hint. Joe might have a little bit something on that just a little bit later coming up in the next segment here. But for me, just rooting, and of course I'm rooting for the Philadelphia Phillies, but I got to tell you, the favorite side does seem right for the Dodgers at this point. It is up to those big boppers early in the lineup because Trey Turner just came back. It might take him a little bit of time to get back to that, hey, look, I'm the best batter in the National League, and see what we can do. But Schwarber, left-handed batter, Harper, left-handed batter, Snell, left-handed pitcher. You got to be able to do some damage. You can't just have strikeouts. You just need some productive outs. And the Phillies had their chances too, Joe. Bases loaded late in that game, got a fly out from Sosa, and also in the 9th inning had a runner on second base. Weren't able to get him home either. Snell, Luzardo today. We'll see how that one pairs out. Game number 2, 9 o'clock start. Chicago Cubs and the Milwaukee Brewers. Imanaga versus Ashby. Another 2 lefties on the mound. But the opener there for Ashby looks like it's probably going to be Quinn Priester coming in behind him. The favorites, though, are the Milwaukee Brewers, Joe. Open up at -116, -120s, -125s out there now in the sports betting landscape. And the total, which opened up at 7.5, has moved up to 8 here. Chicago needs to get back into the series. Milwaukee, can those bats stay hot today?
It's interesting. We watched the Cubs last series roll a starter out there for Imanaga. And you know why? Because his numbers in the first 2 innings, Donnie, have been atrocious. It takes him a little while to get warmed up. So they figured if we can get a starter out there and then bring Imanaga in, maybe that'll help. And it did, because they ended up winning that game. But that's not what they're doing here. And now they're going up against a Milwaukee team who wastes no time you just watch it. Ask Matthew Boyd how that worked out well. So I think this is all going to be about, can Imanaga get past the first couple of innings here with no damage? If he can, the Cubs have a shot. If he can't, yikes. The Brewers playing from in front again is not a situation, if I'm the Cubs, I want to see.
Price points, Joe, in the NLDS, as those two games are going to take place tonight. The Los Angeles Dodgers and the Philadelphia Phillies. The Dodgers are the favorites at a minus 330 price to win the series. The Phillies at a plus 260. If we look at the NLDS between the Brewers and the Cubs, the Brewers are a minus 235 price, and the Cubs are a plus 196 price. If I were to ask you, forget about the favorites, which are the Dodgers right now and the Brewers, which underdog team in the National League can come back? Would you put your money on the plus 260 Phillies or the plus 196 Cubs?
I think the Cubs is the way to go. I mean,
Shame on you.
I know. I mean, it's unfortunately there's a lot of. I mean, listen what they're doing here, bringing in Ashby and then Priester. You know, Woodard's is not on this roster. Mizorowski, after the All-Star break has been, you can't rely on him. So the pitching woes here for Milwaukee scare me a little. I don't have those same woes with the Dodgers and who they can roll out in a short 5-game set. So I would say the Cubs have the better shot at this point.
Yeah, National League takes center stage tonight, Joe. Tomorrow, the AL gets back into it. The Mariners and the Tigers, they'll be Tuesday at 4:08 p.m. Then the Blue Jays and the Yankees. That's the nightcap at 8:08 from the Bronx. So if we did the same thing we just talked about, Joe, with the National League, let's do it for the American League, which, again, is already through their 2 games. The New York Yankees to come back and win this series, Joe, a plus 440 price. The Blue Jays as the favorites, minus 600. And then we take a look at the Seattle Mariners going up against the Detroit Tigers. The Tigers, a plus 106. The Mariners, a minus 124. Is it over for the Yankees? They got to win 3 straight games, Joe. Like, I don't know if I want to play minus 600, but I don't know if the Yankees can win 3 straight games in a row. I don't care who's on the mound.
No, it's not. And again, I would bet the Yankees with the 2 games at home. And you know what I mean? I would go that route before I went ahead and took a shot with them winning the series. Because again, Toronto gets to go back home for that 5th game. But Seattle at this price in a 1-1 spot seems to be, I don't trust Detroit. So it seems like a pretty good number to get Seattle on right now.
Yeah, especially with Skubal out of the way, Joe. You look at the Mariners, like the starting pitching, like the lineup a lot more than the Tigers, and I like their bullpen better. So the minus 124, even though they're split and technically home field advantage is now with Detroit, I still like the Seattle Mariners in that spot. But as we said, 2 games today, 2 more games tomorrow. It's how we get down. Next, we're going to go best bets and also check in to see where the public is going on a certain question that we asked on our Fade the Public poll.
That team are going to stretch them over the top, but I still think it's blue-collar football, Big Ten style. That's where USC has struggled. I do not think Lincoln Riley, I'm sorry, is a good head coach. He's a great quarterback whisperer. He coaches from an offensive coordinator position, doesn't make halftime adjustments, and that's where I give the edge to Bielema. I don't like this game, but I would take the points with Illinois.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
There were some reports earlier this week that Russell Wilson may be sought after somewhat during the trade deadline. A lot of people have been talking about Jameis shipping him to the Bengals as they just need a quarterback to throw the ball. I think they need to move Russell Wilson out. Even though he says he does not want to be moved, you got to get back an asset if you can.
Oh, you do. Does he go to a team like the Saints? Where does he go?
Pro Football Today. Only on SportsGrid.
It's time to sell high. Let's sell high now, Joe. Give me some sneaky sneakies. What do you got?
Yeah, it's Matt's favorite way to sell. Everybody knows that. All right, let's talk about David Montgomery. Look, Montgomery had a big total last week, but really most of it was on one big run. I still feel like Jahmyr Gibbs is the guy here as you continue to move forward with Detroit. I'm not saying you have to get rid of him for nothing.
Fantasy Sports Today. Only on SportsGrid.
60,000 drunk New Yorkers who were there from 5 in the morning to 7 p.m., who dropped a house mortgage on a ticket to watch the United States team miss every putt that they can possibly miss, and you think someone's not going to get pissed off and curse people out? Wah! The golf fan wasn't civil. Wah!
The Craig Carton Show. only on SportsGrid.
One final segment right here on the Early Line for a Monday morning edition of the Early Line. It's Donnie Rightside and it's Joe Ranieri. And at this time of the show, we always love to reach out to the people because we like to ask questions. You follow at SportsGrid on X. Every day we ask a question, and this is our Fade the Public poll. Simple questions, simple answers tonight. The question that we asked at SportsGrid on X was, what is your best bet for Chiefs versus Jaguars on Monday Night Football? And also, will Taylor Swift be in the building? Not in Kansas City, but in Duval County down in Jacksonville. The four questions, or four options, I should say, that we asked: Chiefs -3.5, Jaguars +3.5, over 45.5, or under 45.5. The favorite in the clubhouse right now, no surprise, 41%, the Chiefs -3.5. Joe, I didn't go that way. I took the hook on the Jags.
Yeah, and I went even worse, Donnie, because I took the under in this one.
Wow.
So I'm really fading the public here because I do not see this being some sort of high-scoring affair given what we've seen from these two defenses and the Worthy hitting the IL. That worries me if I'm a Kansas City Chiefs backer, because if he can't go or is limited because of an ankle injury, yeah, that number is going to crater, Donnie. So I grab it while you can, both the hook and the under now.
Yeah, Worthy being out goes from what, Joe, like 6 plays, 68 yards and a touchdown, to 12 plays, 48 yards and a field goal. Not a lot of explosive plays here. Something definitely to keep an eye on. And we don't advocate like, hey, you can't get the best number. But that injury report and throughout the day where, okay, Worthy's going to play and he's fine, that could be a big deal for the Chiefs, and certainly that total at this point. But anytime you hear I'm banged up and questionable, maybe you got to stay away from that one. We'll see the way it goes. But now, Joe, give the people what they want. Here comes Bye, Bye, Bye. It's a Monday, people. New week, new money, Major League Baseball, NFL. Where is Joe Ranieri going tonight with his action?
Well, Donnie, I'm going to go with that first game, 6:08 p.m., game 2 between the Phillies and the Dodgers here. And, yeah, I think this is going to be an interesting pitchers battle. I really do. Luzardo, more than capable, and has that he'll be able to get through this Dodgers order, this lineup here, and limit the damage. Snell, listen, I mean, you talked about it. You got Turner, you got Schwarber, you got Harper. Those guys went 1 for 11 in game 1 here, Donnie. Clearly, they need to get better, but I don't know that it's going to work against Snell here. To me, I think both of these teams are going to have some issues. I took the under in the first 5. I think the bullpens are going to have to get involved before the runs start coming tonight. So it's all about the under in the first 5 for me, Donnie.
There you go, under. And it does make some sense. 2 good pitchers on the mound, tight, tense environment. Philadelphia Phillies sometimes struggle with lefties. Same thing with the Los Angeles Dodgers. We'll see how that one plays out. For me, I'm just going to keep it simple tonight. I'm going to go Major League Baseball as well. Not going to take the Phillies-Dodgers game. I'm going to move it over to the second game tonight. That's Chicago, and it's Milwaukee. I just think those bats are on fire for Milwaukee. I think they stay on fire tonight with a chance for the Chicago Cubs to actually plate some runs themselves. Since August 1st, you take a look at Shota Imanaga's 4.38 ERA, xFIP of 4.10. It's not terrible, but it's actually the worst xFIP on the card tonight. You take a look at Priester and Ashby here, who's going to open. Priester, you can get to him as well. I need the Cubs, Joe, to get 3 runs in this game to have a legitimate chance. I think they can do that, but I think Milwaukee has the chance again. Boy, would I love 9 runs over the first couple innings. Yes, I would. Give me the over tonight. So you go under, I'll go over in game number 2, over 8 -105.
Yeah, and they're going to need to get some runs there, Donnie, without a doubt. Yeah. The way Milwaukee swings the bat at home wouldn't shock me at all if the runs are coming. The Cubs bullpen's been very good since the second half of the season. They're going to need to be better here if they're going to give that Cub hitter an opportunity to actually beat this Milwaukee team.
You wait all season long to get to the playoffs, just like my Philadelphia Phillies, and it could be wiped out tonight with another loss. Having tough losses, Joe, it's part of the game. It's part of fandom. But for me, again, Saturday night, 3-0 lead, things are good. All right, at least my Eagles will handle the business. They didn't, Joe. It's a tough weekend for me. Like, I need some help tonight. I need some therapy tonight. Winning money doesn't cover it sometimes, Joe. I need a Phillies win. It's what I need.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, Yankee fans going through the same thing. They're going to need a win tomorrow. And if I'm a Cubs fan, I need a win tonight. I can't go back home down 2-0.
For Donnie Rightside and Joe Ranieri, this was the Early Line Armchair Quarterback Monday. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And the best part is we will see you bright and early once again tomorrow.